This lesson is for anyone who's finding it at all difficult to get really nice, clean sounding notes out of the guitar. If you're a beginner, this is a really important skill to learn early on because it basically helps everything you play sound a whole lot better. So let's look at the detail. Now, the easiest way to get a clean note out of the guitar is just to play open strings. That means we play the string without the fretting hand stopping it at all. So there's an open E, open A, and so on. But even there's quite a bit to learn about sound quality depending on how hard you hit the string. You'll notice if I hit that string too hard, it's already sounding a bit buzzy. Now, whether you've decided to play using a pick, your fingers, or your thumb, it's worth spending a few minutes just playing open strings and experimenting with how hard to hit the strings to get a good sound. So you could try deliberately hitting too hard, get that horrible sort of buzzy, nasty sound. Too soft. Notice when you hit too soft, you get quite a sort of scratchy sound. You hear more plectrum than you do note, really. Although obviously not if you're turned up enough. But you don't get much kind of attack on the note if you hit too softly. So somewhere between that and that, there's a right amount to hit. Again, it's going to vary with different styles of music and so forth, but it's good just to kind of get a nice even sound just out of the open strings to start with. Then you can say to yourself, right, that's my picking hand sorted out, now let's look at the left hand. Now, the quality of sound of fretted notes on the guitar is decided by three things, all involving words beginning with P. First thing is to try to get your finger angle more or less perpendicular to the fretboard, that's at right angles to it. Rather than that sort of angle, try and get your finger up on its tip. So that's P for perpendicular. Then we've got P for pressure. If you press too little, you'll just get a nasty buzzy sound. If you press too much, you get a slightly out of tune sound because you actually stretch the string slightly. It gives you quite a sort of brittle sound. So somewhere between those two extremes is just the right amount of pressure. The important thing to remember is the purpose of this finger on this hand is to pin the string against the fret wire. It's the fret wire, the contact with the fret wire itself, that stops the vibration cleanly. So your finger's job is just to pin the string to the fret. If you remember that, everything else tends to come out in the wash, so to speak. The third P, after perpendicular and pressure, the third P is position. And this is where most beginners fall down a little. There's a tendency to let your finger come down just there. You can hear that's already buzzing a little bit unless I press really hard. So to get optimum pressure, you want to be just behind the fret there, so you only have to lean on it gently really to pin it against the fret wire. So perfect pressure, perfect position means you can't really see any wood between the fret wire and your finger. That's not quite perfect, that's perfect. You can hear the difference. The note cleans up as we move the finger next to the fret. So firm contact between string and fret is what results in a good, clean sounding note. All these other rules are really just to achieve that. There are actually three distinctly different sounds you can get from a fretted note on a guitar. You can get a buzzy or rattly sound. You can get a sort of dull thud. And you can get a clean sound. Now, you rarely or ever want to produce the first one of these sounds. It just sounds bad. But you do occasionally want to use that sort of dead sound. Certain sort of funk riffs and so on use the sort of percussive sound that you get from a dead string. So being able to control the sound to that degree, it becomes sort of helpful later on. But initially I will concentrate on just getting nice clean sounds out of the notes. So far we've really just concentrated on single notes to sort of drive home these finer points about how to get clean sounds, but everything we've said about single notes applies when you're holding down a whole chord. So big difference between fingering there and fingering there. Much nicer sound to your chords if all your fingers are nicely behind the frets. That sounds nice and clean, that won't. So if your chords sound a bit like this, just slide your fingers up next to the frets. Try and get them nice and perpendicular and nicely, just about the right amount of pressure. So now it's your turn to have a go. I advise deliberately practicing the bad notes as well as the good ones. A funny thing to say, but if you take control of playing really nasty notes, that's also a good way to recognise those when they come up, and will help you actually play cleaner notes. So practice making buzzy notes, dull notes, and nice clean notes. Once you kind of really can produce all three notes at will, then I would just concentrate on the clean ones. Alright, see you in the next lesson.